Hello, so in this tutorial we are going to be looking at examples and demos using Ivy ResNet, in which we will basically look at the implementation of ResNet in Ivy and see how we can do image classification using it. So I will open this notebook in Colab just because it is easier to set up, and I will start by installing the requirements for this. So I'm just about to install Ivy model, and Torch Vision. So in case you run this locally and you already have Ivy and Ivy models installed, you do not need to do this step. So before we get starting, I'd like to mention that ResNet, or residual network, is a very popular deep learning model for computer vision applications. So that is one of the reasons why we've decided to implement it under Ivy as well, to make it framework agnostic. So the first thing that we are going to do is basically import Ivy and Torch. And then it is very important to prepare our data, basically, before we do model prediction. So the first thing that we are going to do is basically get the required labels. So let's have a look at them as well. So here we are going to provide an image as an input, and then the model will basically output the label assigned to the image. So for example, it can recognize a water snake in the image, or maybe a toucan, or basically anything that's under these labels. And then we are going to take the labels and basically add them in a Python list. The next thing that we are doing is set the path to the picture that we want to check, or the picture that we want to predict. So it's going to be a picture of a cat. And then we are going to pre-process the image as well. So we are going to use the ResNet implementation of Torch. So for that, we are taking the image basically, and we are applying some transformations to it. Basically, those are the transformations that we've applied. And then we are including an extra dimension to the tensor. At the same time, we are rearranging the dimensions of the tensor as well, just to make them compatible, and then converting them to NumPy. So here we can visualize the image as well. So basically a picture with a cat. And then we can move on to model inference. So the first thing that we are going to do is basically take the ResNet 34 from Torch, and we are going to import the model in here. So what we can see here is the layers of the model, basically, with all of the details that we need to know about it. And then we are going to do the same, but from Ivy. So this is the ResNet 34 implementation from Ivy. And as you can see, we are setting the weights to be the pre-trained weights. So in case we put false here, we would receive some random weights. So normally, if we want to have the same output as the Torch model, basically the Torch version of ResNet, we need to put the pre-trained weights to true. So once this is loaded, we are going to move on to the following cell, in which we're basically going to compile our Ivy ResNet 34 just to make it a bit more efficient. Yep. And then running the compile. So basically we're doing a forward pass just to increase efficiency. So after this cell is completed, we are then going to check the outputs basically from the Torch ResNet 34 and the output from the Ivy ResNet 34, which technically should be the same in our case. Yeah, and checking the output. So basically what we can see the top 3 predicted classes are the same for both models. The logits, which are basically some raw probabilities, are almost identical. Ivy shows more digits. And then the top 3 categories are basically matching as well. So we can do the same for ResNet 50 as well. And then in Ivy, we have implementations for ResNet 101 and 152, which basically show which are the numbers of layers used in the ResNet model. I hope this helps, and I will see you in the following tutorials.